The colony of Haven's Rest had stood peacefully for 300 years in the Viridian sector. 40,000 Tlaxians lived there among crystalline forests and bright blue lakes. They were farmers and teachers and artists. They had never known war. They had never needed to know war. The Galactic Coalition protected everyone. That was what the Tlaxians believed, until the day the sky turned black with ships. The Krynith swarm came without warning. Their vessels were not like normal ships. They were alive somehow, metal fused with flesh, breathing and bleeding and hungry. The Krynith soldiers were worse. They felt no pain. They regenerated from wounds that would kill any other being. They had consumed 17 star systems in 10 years. Now they wanted Haven's Rest that the Tlaxian defense fleet launched every ship they had. 12 patrol boats and 3 frigates. Against the Krynith, it was nothing. The patrol boats died in the first 5 minutes. The frigates lasted 10 more. Fire rained from the sky. Buildings that had stood for centuries crumbled like sand. The crystalline forests burned with colors that should have been beautiful, but were only terrible. Tlaxian families ran for the underground shelters. Many did not make it. Elder historian Velanak was in the communications tower when the Krynith breach team smashed through the walls. He was old even by Tlaxian standards. His scales had gone gray decades ago. He had written 17 books about peace and cooperation between species. Now he lay dying on the floor of his tower with his blood pooling beneath him. The Krynith soldier that had shot him was already moving to the next target. They were efficient like that. No cruelty, no mercy, just efficient consumption. Velanak dragged himself to the quantum communications array. His hands shook. His vision blurred. He had perhaps 2 minutes before blood loss took him. He activated the emergency broadcast system. It would send on all frequencies across this entire sector of space. He typed coordinates. He typed casualty estimates. He typed the simple truth that his people were dying and no help would come in time. The nearest coalition fleet was 3 weeks away. The Krynith would finish their work by tomorrow morning. His last act was to press the send button. The message burst out into the void at faster than light speed. A desperate scream into an uncaring universe. Velanak closed his eyes and waited for death. He hoped it would be quick. He hoped the children in the shelters would survive somehow. He hoped someone somewhere would remember that the Tlaxians of Haven's Rest had existed and had tried to live good lives. 2 days away, a small human, freighter called the Wandering Star, picked up the signal. Captain David Park was in his quarters doing paperwork when the proximity alarm chimed. He was 43 years old. His hair had started going gray at the temples. He had left Earth 15 years ago for reasons he never talked about. Now he hauled cargo across the outer systems. Medical supplies mostly. Sometimes food. Sometimes machine parts. It was quiet work. Safe work. Boring work. That was exactly what he wanted. He went to the bridge. His sister Grace was already there. She was his younger sister by 2 years and the ship's medical officer. She had followed him into space because someone needed to keep him alive, and apparently she had drawn the short straw. Next to her was Tommy Reeves. Tommy was their engineer. He was 26 and could fix anything mechanical. He had joined the crew 3 years ago after his colony went bankrupt. Rounding out the crew was Lisa Hayes. She was their pilot. Best pilot David had ever seen. She could thread a needle at .8 light speed, if you asked her to. They all stared at the message scrolling across the communication screen. The distress call from Haven's Rest. The coordinates. The estimated time until total colony collapse. Lisa pulled up a navigation plot. 2 days at maximum speed. She looked at David. Tommy looked at David. Grace looked at David. They all knew what he was thinking because they all knew it was insane. Grace spoke first. Her voice was quiet but firm. "You cannot be serious, David. We are a cargo freighter. 4 people. The Kreneth will kill us in seconds." Tommy nodded rapidly. He was already sweating. "The Coalition fleet is 3 weeks out. We are just 2 days closer. That does not change the math. The Kreneth will still be there. Still be killing. Still be unstoppable." Lisa said nothing. She just watched David. She had flown with him the longest. She knew that look in his eyes. David stared at the distress call. He thought about 40,000 people huddled in shelters waiting to die. He thought about Elder Velenak bleeding out while sending his message. He thought about the children down there who would never grow up. He thought about the Kreneth moving through the colony, killing everyone they found, because that was what the Kreneth did. They consumed. They moved on. No one stopped them. The Coalition always arrived too late to do anything but count bodies. Set course for Haven's Rest. Maximum speed. His voice was steady. Grace stood up. Her chair scraped against the floor. "David, this is suicide. We have no weapons. No armor. Nothing that can fight them." David turned to look at his sister. "We have something. You just do not know about it yet." He left the bridge. They heard his footsteps going down to the cargo hold. Grace and Tommy exchanged worried looks. Lisa was already plotting the course. Her hands moved across the controls with practiced precision. The wandering star turned. Its engines flared bright. It began accelerating toward a doomed colony 2 days away. In the cargo hold, David stood in front of a sealed container. It was 3 meters long and 2 meters wide, heavy, magnetically locked. He had not opened it in 15 years. Had never planned to open it again. The container was marked with faded lettering. UEG Marine Corps Armory. Classified. Below that was a serial number he had memorized long ago. Below that was his own signature from when he had checked it out. Before Earth joined the Coalition. Before humanity decided to be peaceful. Before they all agreed to forget what they had been. David entered the unlock code. The magnetic seals disengaged with a hiss. The lid rose slowly. Inside were weapons. Human weapons. The kind that had been banned. The kind that were supposed to not exist anymore. The kind that entire species had nightmares about. He looked at them for a long moment. Then he began pulling them out one by one. He had 2 days to remember how to use them. 2 days to become what he used to be. 2 days before the galaxy would learn what humans really were. He sent a single message back to Haven's Rest. It was brief. Just 4 words. "Hold on. We are coming." On Haven's Rest, Elder Velenak died without knowing if his message reached anyone. The Kreneth continued their methodical destruction. The Talaxian survivors huddled deeper in their shelters. They prayed to their gods. They held their children. They waited for the end. None of them knew that something was coming. None of them knew that the quiet human traders who hauled medicine and food across the stars were about to show the galaxy their other face. The one they kept hidden. The one they had hoped never to show again. The wandering star raced through the void. On the bridge, the crew was silent. In the cargo hold, David Park loaded weapons that had not been touched in 15 years. And in the Viridian sector, the Kreneth swarm continued killing without knowing that for the first time in their existence, they were about to experience fear. The wandering star dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Haven's Rest system. What they saw made Tommy Reeves vomit into the nearest waste receptacle. Grace Park gripped her medical scanner so hard her knuckles went white. Lisa Hayes just stared. David stood behind them all with his face carved from stone. The colony was dying. Kreneth bioships swarmed around the planet like insects on rotting meat. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Their organic hulls pulsed with sick light. Their weapon ports breathed fire down onto the surface. The colony shields flickered, failing. Maybe an hour left. Maybe less. On the surface, buildings burned. The crystalline forests were ash. The blue lakes boiled. Grace checked her scanners. Underground shelters still showed life signs. Thousands of them, packed together, waiting. The Krynith ground forces were breaching the first shelters now. She watched the life signs start to disappear. One by one, families, children, gone. This is hell. Tommy whispered. This is actual hell. David moved to the weapons station. It had been a cargo monitoring system 2 days ago. Now it was something else. He had spent 48 hours rebuilding it. 48 hours remembering skills he thought he had forgotten. His hands moved across controls that should not exist on a civilian vessel. The wandering star was no longer just a freighter. It was something the galaxy had not seen in 15 years. It was a human warship. Grace turned to face her brother. She had spent the last 2 days watching him work. Watching him pull weapons from that container. Weapons she did not recognize. Weapons that scared her just to look at. Now she needed answers. What are those things, David? What did you bring onto our ship? David did not look away from his screams. He was plotting firing solutions, calculating trajectories, marking targets. Do you remember the unification wars? Before we left Earth, before the coalition, everyone remembered. Humanity had nearly destroyed itself. 100 nations fighting over a dying planet. Nuclear fire. Biological plagues. Weapons that made the survivors wish they had died. Then the discovery of faster-than-light travel. Then the choice. Keep killing each other or reach for the stars. Humanity chose the stars. They dismantled their weapons, joined the coalition, became peaceful traders. That is what the history books say. David's voice was flat. They do not tell you that some weapons were too dangerous to dismantle, too dangerous to keep on Earth, so they gave them to people like me. Marine Corps' deep space disposal units. We were supposed to dump them in dead stars. Make sure no one ever found them. He finally looked at his sister. I kept one container. Just one. In case we ever needed it. Tommy was shaking. What kind of weapons? What could humans make that was too dangerous for Earth? Neural disruptor mines. David started listing them. Plasma lances that burn at star core temperatures. Kinetic missiles that accelerate to 0.9 light speed. Nanite swarms that take matter apart molecule by molecule. And the Hellfire Protocol. A viral weapon that targets aggression patterns in neural tissue. The bridge went silent except for the hum of the engines and the distant screaming of Haven's Rest dying. Grace felt her stomach turn. Those weapons are illegal. Banned by every species in the coalition. If we use them, they will brand us as war criminals. David activated the external cameras. He showed her the life signs disappearing from the shelters. Showed her the Krynith moving methodically through the colony. Showed her children dying while the galaxy's fleets were still weeks away. They can brand me whatever they want. I am not watching this happen when I can stop it. He opened communications on all channels. Every species in monitoring range would hear this. Every coalition fleet. Every news service. Every government. The entire galaxy was about to watch. This is Captain David Park of the human vessel Wandering Star. To any Tlaxian survivors on Haven's Rest, help is here. Get to the deepest shelters you can reach. What comes next is going to be bad. He switched off the communicator. Lisa, take us in. Full combat approach. Tommy, I need every power cell we have running hot. Grace, I need you in medical. When this is over, there will be survivors who need you. Lisa's hands were shaking, but she flew. The Wandering Star accelerated toward the Krynith swarm. A single small freighter against an armada that had butchered its way across 17 systems. On 1,000 worlds, military commanders watched their screens in disbelief. On the Coalition flagship, the admiral started shouting orders to record everything. The Krynith noticed them. Of course, they noticed. A ship approaching instead of fleeing. Strange. 3 bioships broke formation to intercept. They were each 10 times the size of the wandering star. Their weapons could crack a moon. They locked on. Prepared to fire. Prepared to swat this annoying insect from space. David pressed a button. Neural disruptor mines deployed in a perfect sphere around the lead bioship. There was a flash. Purple light that hurt to look at. Then the bioship collapsed. Not exploded. Collapsed, like a balloon deflating. 3,000 Krynith warriors reduced to organic liquid in 2.3 seconds. The other 2 bioships stopped. They had never seen anything die like that. Did not understand what had happened. David fired again. 2 more flashes. 2 more ships becoming biological soup. The galaxy watched in silence. The Krynith swarm hesitated for the first time in their history. Something in their hive mind screamed danger. This small ship was wrong. Those weapons were wrong. Nothing killed like that. Nothing erased life so completely. They started to move. Not to attack. To surround. To overwhelm with numbers. David smiled. It was not a nice smile. Lisa, pattern delta. Tommy, wrote all power to the plasma lens. Array. The wandering star dove into the swarm. Lisa flew like a woman possessed. Spinning. Rolling. Threading between bioships that were 10 times their size. David fired continuously. Each shot was a ship dying. Each flash was thousands of Krynith dissolving. The plasma lances burned through organic hulls like they were paper. Temperature readouts showed 15 million degrees. Hot enough to ignite atmospheres. Hot enough to crack planets. Grace watched from medical. She had sworn an oath to heal. To preserve life. Now she was on a ship that was killing on a scale that made her want to scream. She pulled up her computer anyway. She had work to do. Terrible work. She began calibrating the Hellfire protocol. The viral weapon that would turn the Krynith hive mind against itself. She cried while she worked. Every adjustment felt like losing a piece of her soul. Tommy fed power to the weapon systems. He had fixed farming equipment on his home colony. Now he programmed death. The nanite swarms were loaded and ready. Millions of microscopic machines that would disassemble anything they touched. Atom by atom. He watched the deployment sequences with shaking hands. Simple farmer boy from a quiet world now operating weapons that could end civilizations. The battle continued. Battle was the wrong word. Slaughter. Extermination. The wandering star moved through the Krynith swarm like death incarnate. Bioships that had burned worlds died screaming in frequencies the humans could not hear, but every coalition vessel detected. For the first time, the unstoppable was being stopped. For the first time, the predators became prey. David's face never changed. He tracked targets, calculated firing solutions, destroyed ships. His training from 20 years ago came back like he had never stopped. Marine Corps Captain David Park, decorated veteran of the Unification Wars, expert in weapons, too terrible for civilized society. He had tried to leave that man behind, had spent 15 years being a simple cargo hauler. Now, that man was back and the galaxy was watching him work. A massive Krynith command ship moved toward them, twice the size of any other. The center of their hive coordination. David marked it. Grace. Deploy the Hellfire protocol. His sister's hands moved across her console. She was still crying. The viral payload launched. Microscopic particles that would infiltrate the command ship. That would spread through the Krynith neural network. That would twist their aggression against themselves. She watched it happen on her biological scanners. Watched the Kryneth inside begin tearing each other apart. Watched the hive mind fragment and collapse. It took 4 minutes. 4 minutes of the command ship becoming a floating tomb full of Kryneth killing Kryneth. The swarm broke. The remaining bioships turned and fled. Ran from a single human freighter. Ran from weapons they could not comprehend. Ran from the realization that there was something worse than them in the galaxy. David let them go. He could have chased them down. Could have killed them all. But he had come here for one reason. To save the colony. The threat was gone. That was enough. The wandering star descended toward Haven's Rest. The surface was ruins. But the life signs in the deep shelters still held. Still survived. David looked at his crew. Grace was pale and shaking. Tommy looked like he might be sick again. Lisa's hands trembled on the controls. They had won. They had saved the colony. And all it cost was the innocence of 4 people who had thought they left war behind on 1,000 worlds. Military commanders sat in stunned silence. The peaceful human traders had just demonstrated why Earth's weapons had been banned. Why humanity had been asked to forget what it could do. The Kryneth had terrified the galaxy for a decade. 4 humans in a small ship had broken them in under an hour. The galaxy had learned something terrible that day. Humans were not warriors. They were not soldiers. The wandering star settled into low orbit above Haven's Rest. The Kryneth swarm was scattered. 13 bioships had entered the system. 7 were destroyed completely. The rest fled damaged and leaking. But the ground forces remained. Thousands of Kryneth soldiers moving through the ruins. Breaching shelters. Killing survivors. The work was not finished. David Park stood in the cargo hold putting on armor. Not modern coalition gear. This was older, heavier, marked with insignia that had not been used in 15 years. United Earth Government Marine Corps assault configuration. Black metal scarred from old battles. A helmet with a cracked visor that he had never bothered to replace. He checked the weapon systems built into the armor. Still functional. Still deadly. Grace came down from medical. She had stopped crying, but her eyes were red. She watched her brother become something else. Something she had never seen before. David, you do not have to do the ground assault yourself. We have combat drones. Let them handle it. David locked his chest plate into place. The drones can do most of it. But the Kryneth are dug into the shelter complexes. If I want to clear them fast, I need to be down there. Every minute we wait is more Tlaxians dead. She wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him this was insane. One man against thousands of Kryneth warriors. But she had watched him in space. Watched him destroy an armada. Maybe he could do this too. Maybe her brother was something she had never understood. She went back to medical without another word. Tommy prepped the combat drones. 15 of them. Each loaded with weapons that made his hands shake. He had been a simple engineer 2 days ago. Now he was arming machines for war. The drones were old Earth military hardware. Banned like everything else in that container. They were efficient. They were brutal. They would follow David into hell if that was what he ordered. Lisa brought the ship down to the surface. She set them down on the outskirts of the colony. Or what was left of the colony. The crystalline forests were ash. The buildings were rubble. Bodies lay everywhere. Tlaxian civilians who had not made it to the shelters. She tried not to look but could not help seeing. Families, children, the Kryneth had killed them all. David walked down the loading ramp with 15 drones following behind him. He carried a rifle that was taller than most species. It fired rounds that could punch through tank armor. On his back was a launcher for the plasma charges. At his hip were grenades that used the same technology as the mines. Neural disruptors in handheld form. He was a walking weapons platform. He was death in human form. He pulled up a tactical display. The shelter complexes were marked. Life signs showed where Tlaxians still survived. Also showed where Krynith forces were concentrated. The main shelter had perhaps 5,000 civilians. 300 Krynith were breaching the outer doors. He had maybe 20 minutes before they got through. He started running. The armor made him faster, stronger. He covered ground that would take a normal human an hour and 12 minutes. The drones kept pace easily. They moved like hunting animals, silent, efficient. The Krynith heard him coming. They always did. Their sensory organs detected vibrations from a kilometer away. A squad of 20 turned to meet him. They were each 2 meters tall. Armor like insect shells. Claws that could tear steel. They regenerated from wounds that would kill anything else. They had butchered their way across 17 systems. They looked at the single human in old armor and felt no concern. Just another target. David did not slow down. He fired while running. His rifle was set to full automatic. The rounds hit the lead Krynith and exploded inside its body. New ammunition. Reactive cores. The Krynith warrior came apart in pieces. He shot the next. And the next. They tried to regenerate, but the explosive rounds left nothing to regenerate from. 20 Krynith died in 8 seconds. David ran past their remains without stopping. The drones spread out. They had their own targets. Krynith forces scattered throughout the ruins. The machines moved with mechanical precision. No hesitation. No mercy. They killed with the efficiency that only automated systems could achieve. Plasma bursts. Kinetic rounds. Neural disruptors. Every weapon humanity had banned. Every nightmare the galaxy had tried to forget. David reached the main shelter. The outer doors were breached. Krynith warriors were pushing through. He could hear Tlaxian screams from inside. Civilians dying. Children being killed. The sound made something cold settle in his chest. He armed a plasma charge. Set it for maximum yield. Threw it into the breach. The explosion lit up the ruins. 15 million degrees focused into a 10-meter radius. The Krynith in the breach simply ceased to exist. Vaporized. The ones behind tried to retreat. David did not let them. He moved into the breach while the metal was still glowing. His armor protected him from heat that would melt stone. He fired continuously. Krynith fell. They tried to swarm him. He switched to grenades. Neural disruptors detonated in sequence. 50 Krynith became liquid in flashes of purple light. Inside the shelter, Tlaxian survivors watched in terror and awe. They saw a human doing what entire fleets could not do. Saw him push back the unstoppable. Elder Velenak was there, barely alive, held together by emergency medical gel. He had survived when he thought death was certain. Now he watched their savior tear through Krynith forces like they were nothing. David cleared the breach, sealed the outer door with a portable force field, moved to the next shelter. The pattern repeated. Krynith concentrations, plasma charges, gunfire, neural disruptors. He moved through the ruins like a storm. Behind him, the drones followed, cleaning up, making sure nothing survived to threaten the civilians again. Above, in orbit, Grace monitored it all. She had medical scanners tracking everything, tracking Tlaxian life signs stabilizing as the Krynith died, tracking her brother's vital signs as he pushed his body past safe limits. The armor helped, but he was still human, still mortal. She watched his heart rate, his oxygen levels, his core temperature rising from the plasma charges. He was killing himself saving these people. Tommy kept the weapon systems hot, fed targeting data to the drones, watched the tactical displays with growing horror. His simple engineer brain could not comprehend the efficiency of the slaughter. David had cleared 8 shelter complexes in 40 minutes, killed over 1,000 Krynth soldiers, saved tens of thousands of Talaxians. The numbers did not feel real. Lisa monitored coalition communications. Every fleet in range was broadcasting, recording, analyzing. The footage was spreading across the galaxy. Humanity had been quiet traitors for 15 years. Now they were showing what they really were. Apex predators who chose restraint, who chose peace, but who could become war incarnate when needed. The last Krynth ground forces tried to retreat, tried to reach their extraction ships. David did not let them. He had started this to save the colony. He would finish it. The drones hunted down the stragglers. The last Krynth warrior died trying to crawl toward its landing craft. David shot it from 200 meters away. Center mass. The explosive round did its work. Silence fell over Haven's Rest, the kind of silence that only comes after battle. David stood in the ruins breathing hard. His armor was scorched. His rifle was nearly melted from sustained fire. Around him lay the remains of an army that had terrorized the galaxy. He had done this. 4 humans and 15 drones. Against thousands. And they had won. He opened communications. All shelters, this is David Park. The Krynth are gone. You are safe. We have medical support. We have supplies. Help is here. The shelter doors began opening. Talaxians emerged into the ruins. They saw their colony destroyed, saw their forests ash, saw their lakes boiled dry. But they were alive. Their children were alive. They had survived because someone answered their call for help. Grace brought the ship down near the main shelter. She set up medical stations, started treating the wounded. Broken bones, burns, trauma. She worked automatically, her hands steady even though her mind was screaming. She was a doctor. She saved lives. But her brother had killed thousands to make this possible. She did not know how to feel about that. Tommy helped organize supplies, food, water, temporary shelter. The Talaxians were grateful, kept touching his hands, thanking him. He wanted to tell them he had done nothing, that he had just armed the weapons, that David did the real work. But they did not care. He was human. He was part of the crew that saved them. That was enough. Elder Velenak was carried to Grace on a stretcher. He was dying. Even human medicine could not save him. Too much damage. Too much blood loss. But he was conscious. He looked at Grace with eyes that had seen 3 centuries. Tried to speak. She leaned close. Thank you. His voice was barely a whisper. Thank you for coming when no one else did. Thank you for being what we needed. Grace held his hand while he died. She had killed thousands today, helping her brother. Now she could not save one. She wondered if that meant something. Wondered if there was a balance in the universe. Wondered if they had paid too high a price. David stood apart from the survivors, watching. His armor was powered down. His weapons were empty. He had done what he came to do. Saved the colony. Stopped the Krynth. But he felt no victory. Just exhaustion. Just the weight of what he had remembered how to be. The galaxy had watched it all. Every species. Every government. Every military. They had seen humans fight. Really fight. Not the careful measured. The coalition fleet arrived 3 days after the battle. 40 warships led by Arbiter Marcus Chun dropped out of faster-than-light travel expecting to find ruins and bodies. Instead, they found Haven's Rest still standing, damaged but alive. 5,000 Talaxians working to rebuild their colony. And one small human freighter sitting in the middle of it all. Marcus, Chun stood on the bridge of his flagship staring at his tactical displays. His analysts had gone over the footage 100 times. They still could not believe it. One human ship against a Krynth armada. 4 humans and some drones against thousands of ground forces. It should have been impossible. The math did not work. The physics did not work. Yet somehow it had happened. He opened communications. "This is Coalition Arbiter Marcus Chun to the vessel Wandering Star. Captain David Park, you are ordered to stand down and prepare for boarding. You are being detained for questioning regarding illegal weapons usage and possible war crimes." On the Wandering Star, the crew looked at each other. They had known this was coming. Had known the moment David opened that container. Grace sat in medical surrounded by Tlachian patients she had saved. Tommy was in engineering, trying to repair systems burned out from the weapons. Lisa was at the helm ready to run if David gave the word. They all waited to see what he would do. David was in his quarters. He had not slept in 3 days. His body ached. His hands still shook from the sustained combat. He looked at himself in the mirror. Saw a man who had tried to leave war behind. Who had thought he could be peaceful. Who had learned that some things you could never really leave behind. He activated the communicator. Acknowledged Arbiter Chun. The Wandering Star will comply. We are standing down. The Coalition boarding team came armed and nervous. They had watched the footage. Knew what these humans could do. David met them at the airlock alone. Hands visible. Armor removed. Just a tired middle-aged man in a cargo ship jumpsuit. They scanned him. Scanned the ship. Found weapons that should not exist. Technology that was banned. Evidence of what humanity had been before they joined the stars. They took David to the flagship. Put him in a conference room. Not a cell. Marcus Chen wanted answers before he made accusations. He sat across from the human cargo captain and tried to reconcile this exhausted man with the warrior who had destroyed a Krynth armada. You used illegal weapons. Chen started. Neural disruptors. Plasma weapons beyond regulation limits. Biological viral agents. All banned by coalition law. All forbidden to human vessels. David looked at him without expression. I used the weapons I had to save 40,000 innocent people from being slaughtered. The coalition fleet was 3 weeks away. They had hours. Chun pulled up images. Showed David the Krynth bioships collapsed into biological waste. The warriors dissolved by neural disruptors. The command ship where the Hellfire Protocol made them tear each other apart. Do you know what these images are doing to the galaxy right now? Every species is asking the same question. What else did humanity hide? What other weapons do they have? David leaned back in his chair. He was too tired for this. Too tired for politics and accusations. We hid weapons that could destroy civilizations. Weapons we made when we were destroying ourselves. We agreed not to use them. To forget them. To be peaceful traders among the stars. Then why did you keep them? Chun's voice was sharp. Why did you have that container on your ship? Because I knew. David's voice was flat. I knew that someday somewhere someone would cry for help and no one would come in time. I knew that peace only works when everyone chooses it. And I knew the Krynth did not choose it. Neither do the raiders. Or the slavers. Or any of the other predators out there. So I kept one container. Just in case. Chun was silent for a long moment. Then he played audio. The original distress call from Elder Velenak. The old Tlaxian historian dying on his tower floor. Begging for help that he knew would not come. The message that David had answered. You could have died. Chun said quietly. You and your crew. That swarm should have killed you in minutes. David looked at the Arbiter. But they did not. And now 40,000 Tlaxians are alive. including children, including families. So you tell me, Arbiter Chun, was I wrong? Should I have let them die while waiting for you to arrive in 3 weeks? Chun had no answer. He had reviewed the timeline, had seen the projections. The Krynith would have finished their work in 18 hours. The last Tlatzian would have died 2 weeks before the Coalition arrived. David Park had saved them all. Used illegal weapons to do it. Become a war criminal to prevent a genocide. How did you judge that the Galactic Council convened via quantum link? Representatives from 1,000 species. They watched the footage from Haven's Rest, debated, argued. The military commanders wanted to study human weapons, learn how they worked. The politicians wanted humans expelled from the Coalition, branded as dangerous. The merchants and traders who knew humans worried that the galaxy was about to make a terrible mistake. The Tlaxian spoke. Every survivor. 5,000 voices all saying the same thing. David Park and his crew saved us. They came when no one else could. They risked their lives for people they had never met. They are heroes, but the weapons. A council member from the Vex Consortium argued. The technology they used is forbidden. If we allow this, we set a precedent. Any species could claim emergency and use banned weapons. Elder historian Velenek had died 3 days ago, but he had left a recording, his final testimony. The council played it. The old Tlaxian spoke from his deathbed, talked about watching his people die, about sending his desperate message into the void, about the humans who answered when no one else could. Judge them if you must. Velenak's voice was weak but clear. Brand them criminals if that makes you feel just. But know this. When my people needed help, when we were dying, when the Coalition was too far away, humans came. They bled for us. They killed for us. They became monsters so we could live. That is worth something. That should mean something. The council voted. It took 3 days. In the end, they reached a compromise. No charges against David Park and his crew. But humanity would be required to disclose the location of all hidden weapons stockpiles. Submit to Coalition oversight. Agree to use such weapons only in extreme circumstances with proper authorization. Earth responded through their representative, a woman named Sarah Kim who had not left Earth in 20 years. She stood before the council and smiled. It was not a friendly smile. You want our weapon stockpiles. You want oversight. You want control. Let me tell you what you are going to get instead. She pulled up a star map, marked hundreds of locations. These are confirmed sites. Old Marine Corps disposal units like David Park. We have been checking. Some kept their containers. Some did not. We do not know which. We do not know what weapons they have. We do not know where they all are. The council members looked at each other in growing alarm. So you cannot comply. One said, you cannot tell us where the weapons are. Sarah Kim shook her head. We can comply. We can tell you where some weapons are. But here is what you need to understand. Humanity left Earth as traitors, as peaceful people who wanted to join the stars. But we left Earth as humans. And humans protect the weak. Humans answer distress calls. Humans risk everything for strangers because that is who we are. You can accept that, or you can expel us from the Coalition. Your choice. The council deliberated. Some species wanted humans gone, wanted them far away where their weapons could not threaten anyone. Others argued that Haven's Rest proved humanity's value, that 4 humans did what entire fleets could not. That maybe having dangerous allies was better than having dangerous enemies. The Treaty of Haven's Rest was signed 6 days after the battle, named for the place where humanity showed its teeth. The terms were complex, but the core was simple. Humanity would maintain hidden arsenals as a deterrent, subject to coalition oversight for use only in extreme emergencies. In return, humanity agreed to help defend coalition species who could not defend themselves. David Park was offered a commission. Admiral in the coalition fleet, commander of rapid response forces. He declined. He just wanted to go back to hauling cargo. Back to being a simple freighter captain. Back to pretending he was not what he had been. But the galaxy would not let him. The crew of the Wandering Star became symbols. Proof that humans could be trusted with terrible power because they did not want to use it. Proof that peaceful people could become warriors when needed. Proof that humanity belonged among the stars, even with blood on their hands. David returned to his ship. Grace was waiting. She had not stopped working medical since the battle. Saved hundreds of Tlaxians. Operated on injuries she had never seen before. She looked exhausted. She looked broken. She looked at her brother and asked the question that haunted them both. Did we do the right thing? David had no answer. He thought about the Krynith they killed, the line they crossed, the terror in coalition eyes. But he also thought about the children playing in Haven's Rest's temporary shelters. The families alive because someone answered their call. The Tlaxians rebuilding their colony instead of being consumed by the swarm. We did what we had to. He finally said. History will judge if it was right. Grace nodded slowly. Then she went to her quarters. She would not sleep. She had not slept since the battle. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Krynith dissolving. 6 months after Haven's Rest, the galaxy had changed. The Krynith swarm still existed, still raided colonies, still consumed worlds. But they did something now they had never done before. They avoided humans. Any ship flying an Earth flag was given wide space. Any colony with human presence was bypassed. The hive mind had learned a new concept. Fear. The change rippled outward. Raiders who once targeted human merchant vessels now fled at the first sign of Earth transponders. Pirates who had preyed on outer colonies learned to check for human security contractors. The slavers who had operated in the border systems found their operations disrupted by small human ships that appeared without warning. David Park sat in a bar on Station Meridian watching the news feeds. Reports of Krynith retreats. Stories of human intervention. Footage of battles he had never fought being attributed to him. The galaxy had made him a symbol. The peaceful trader who became a warrior. The man who showed what humanity really was. He hated it. He just wanted to haul cargo. A Vex merchant approached his table. Tentacles nervous. May I sit? David nodded. The Vex settled across from him. I wanted to thank you. My convoy was attacked by Krynith scouts last month. They scanned us, detected human ship signatures in our formation. They fled. You saved my life without even being there. David took a drink. Did not know what to say. The Vex continued. But I also wanted to ask, are all humans like you? Do you all carry those weapons? Are you all warriors pretending to be traitors? No. David's voice was quiet. Most humans are exactly what they seem. Peaceful people who want to trade and explore and live quiet lives. But some of us remember what we had to be. And we keep the tools just in case. The Vex left looking unsatisfied, wanting clear answers in a universe that did not provide them. David finished his drink. Grace found him there an hour later. She looked better than she had 6 months ago. Still had nightmares. Still saw the Krynith dissolving when she closed her eyes. But she was healing, learning to live with what she had done. We got another message. She said, someone wants to hire us. Security escort through Krynith territory. Paying triple standard rates. David shook his head. We are cargo haulers, not mercenaries. They know that. Grace sat down. They do not want us to fight. They just want the Krynith to see human transponders and stay away. We would not even need to load weapons. That is worse. David looked at his sister. We become deterrents, threats. We make our reputation do the work. That is not who I want to be, but it is who we are now. Grace's voice was soft. Whether we like it or not, the galaxy knows what we did, what we can do. We cannot go back to before. On Earth, the United Earth government established a rapid response fleet. Small ships, fast ships, crewed by volunteers, each one carrying weapons that made coalition admirals nervous. Their mission was simple: answer distress calls that conventional fleets could not reach in time. Be what David Park was. Be what the galaxy needed, even if it scared them. Commander Lisa Hayes led the first response team. She had left a wandering star after 6 months. Could not stay on the ship. Could not keep hauling cargo like nothing changed. She needed purpose. Needed to make what they did at Haven's Rest mean something. So she joined the fleet. Took command of a frigate called the Swift Answer. Trained crews in the tactics David had used. Tommy Reeves went home. Back to his colony. Back to fixing farming equipment and irrigation systems. He told no one what he had done. Just wanted to be a simple engineer again. But he kept a small container in his workshop. Just a few tools. Just in case. He told himself he would never need them. Tried to believe it. The Treaty of Haven's Rest changed coalition dynamics. Other species began asking uncomfortable questions. If humans had hidden weapons, what about everyone else? What secrets did the Vex keep? What weapons did the Tlaxians possess before they became peaceful? What nightmares did every species hide from their history? Trust became complicated. Alliances shifted. Some species moved closer to humanity. Wanted the protection that Earth offered. Others pulled away. Wanted distance from people who could kill so efficiently. The coalition fractured along new lines. Not by biology or culture, but by philosophy. Those who believed in peace through strength versus those who believed strength destroyed peace. Marcus Chun was promoted to admiral, given command of coalition border security. His first act was to establish communication protocols with the Rapid Response Fleet. His second was to classify David Park's service record. Make it harder for people to find the old Marine Corps captain. Give him privacy he had earned, but would never really have. Chun understood what Haven's Rest meant. Understood what humanity had shown. Power without arrogance. Violence without cruelty. The ability to kill without the desire to do so. In the depths of space, ancient species watched. The Elders, as they called themselves. Civilizations millions of years old. They had seen countless younger races rise and fall. Seen the patterns repeat. Species that gained power used it. Species that developed weapons deployed them. Species that became strong became conquerors. But humans confused them. Humans had power and hid it. Had weapons and restrained them. Had the capacity for violence, but chose peace. The Elders debated what this meant. Some thought it was weakness. Others thought it was wisdom. A few thought it was the most dangerous thing they had ever seen. A species that could be both savior and destroyer. That could switch between them based on need rather than desire. One elder spoke to their council in frequencies human ears could not hear. They will either unite this galaxy or shatter it. There is no middle path for beings who can be what they need to be, rather than what they are. David returned to the wandering star. Grace came with him. They did not talk about the offers. Did not discuss the messages asking for help or protection or just the presence of human transponders. They loaded cargo. Medical supplies headed for a colony in the outer reach. Basic stuff. Simple job. Normal work. Lisa contacted them before they left. The swift answer was responding to a distress call. Small colony. Raider attack. Nothing they could not handle, but she wanted them to know. Wanted them to understand that what they started at Haven's Rest was growing. Becoming something bigger. Be careful. David told her. Do not become what you are hunting. Lisa laughed. It was not a happy sound. Too late for that, Captain. We became it 6 months ago. Now, we just try to aim it at the right targets. The wandering star departed Station Meridian. Jumped to faster than light. Headed toward quiet space where cargo haulers did boring work. Grace went to medical. Organized supplies. Checked inventory. Tried not to think about the neural disruptors still locked in the cargo hold. The container David had resealed, but not destroyed. Tommy sent a message from his colony. Simple update. Systems running well. Crops good this year. Life was normal. Except he had been contacted by UEG recruitment. They wanted him for the rapid response fleet. Wanted his skills. His experience. He had not decided yet. Part of him wanted to stay hidden. Part of him knew that more Haven's Rest situations would happen. More colonies would need help. More distress calls would go out. The galaxy settled into its new balance. Krynith raids decreased, but did not stop. They just avoided human targets. Focused on species without Earth protection. The coalition tried to negotiate changes. Tried to get humans to extend their protection. Earth refused. They would answer distress calls. Would help those who could not help themselves. But they would not become the galaxy's police force. Would not turn protection into empire. Some species did not understand the distinction. Argued that refusing to help was the same as enabling harm. Earth's position remained firm. We will come when called. We will answer distress signals. But we will not impose ourselves. Will not decide who deserves protection. That path leads to the very thing we are trying to prevent. Haven's Rest rebuilt slowly. The crystalline forests would take centuries to regrow. The lakes were still toxic in places. But the people survived. 5,000 Tlaxians working together. Building temporary structures. Planning permanent ones. Children played in the ruins. Life continued. They maintained the monument. Simple stone with names of the dead. Cleaned it weekly. Brought flowers that grew in the ash. Every year on the anniversary, they lit fires. Big enough to see from orbit. Signal fires. Telling any human ship passing by that they remembered. That they were grateful. That they understood the cost. David received a message every year on that date. From the current elder governor. Always the same. Thank you for answering. Thank you for the nightmares you carry so we do not have to. Thank you for being what the galaxy needed. He never responded. Just kept the messages. Hundreds of them now. All saying the same thing in different ways. All grateful. All understanding. All accepting that sometimes peace required violence. That sometimes protecting the innocent meant becoming a monster. Grace asked him once why he kept them. Why he did not just delete them. Move on. David looked at his sister and gave the only answer he had. Because if I forget why I did it, if I lose sight of who we saved, then what I became means nothing. Then I am just a killer. That those messages, those Tlaxians, they are the reason. They are what makes it bearable. The wandering star drifted through space. Small cargo freighter, unremarkable, carrying medical supplies and machine parts. Just another human ship doing normal work.